Caleb and I were watching Pilgrim's Progress. They still have it on Amazon Prime. I don't think they have it on Netflix anymore, but the end of it always makes me cry. If you guys have not watched that, it's a cartoon, but I love it. It's so good. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna totally spoil it. But there's books upstairs that are in more detail if you're going to get them from the library. I haven't read it. I want to though. At the very end of the movie, Christian is with his friend Hopeful, and they're on the shore at the end of their journey, at the end of their lives, and they have to pass through this wall of water, which is death, to be able to get to the celestial city. And Christian does not want to go. He gets to the very end of it, and he says he's afraid, and he says he's taken this journey to make a way for others. And his wife and his children, he was talking about to save them. That's why he made his journey. An evangelist comes along. He's a character in the story, and he says that you cannot do. For the way has already been paved for others by the same one that paved it for you. Your part has been to follow. Others will follow. And Christian says, what about my wife and children? And he says, that question can only be answered by them. But if they do follow you, if they do come, would you lead them here only, to this point only? So he realized he had to pass through, finish his life, and go through, and just leave them behind, and do that. And it's so sad, because sometimes we feel very alone in what we're doing. Our spouses don't serve the Lord. Sometimes our kids they don't see how good God is, because they're so into their own thing in the world and the lust of the world and everything. And it's really hard to translate the love of God to somebody who doesn't see it valuable. So we do walk alone. But then last night I was really sad about it. And then I was watching this thing about, what's his name? A.W. Tozer. He wrote a lot of books back in the day. He's an old dude. I guess he was in the 1800s. No? Yes? 1900s? Okay. So he was after Spurgeon. And I watched something from him, and it says that Moses was alone when he was in the desert, and God called to him. Even though Noah had his family, when it was all the society, it was against him. Noah was alone. Job was alone. And you can go on and on, but then at the end, this is a quote from A.W. Tozer. He says, you cannot carry a cross in company. Though a man was surrounded by a vast crowd, his cross is his alone, and carrying of it marks him a man apart. Society has turned against him, otherwise he would have had no cross. They all forsook him and fled. So, we are called a lot of times to be alone. And then those are the times when God calls us and does mighty things in us, is those times when we feel so different than everybody else and so forgotten sometimes, or put aside because you're different. And God really uses that to remind you that you're special and that you're Him. And then I felt encouraged, because I was like, even though we are alone, and in the end we stand before God alone, there's a great cloud of witnesses. And we have fellowship with people that love Christ here and now, that we can have that in common with them, and we're not alone. And we just keep praying for those in our families. And we just carry on and draw close to God and take the narrow way. Every time I hear the narrow way, I always think there's only enough room in there for you and God. That's why it's called the narrow way. I don't know if that's real, but that's what I feel like when I read it. So being alone isn't bad, all in itself. And sometimes it's a real struggle, but God will do mighty things in it. He really will, if we just focus everything on Him and His kingdom.